the world. They also say that the sacrifice that's described in the Bible didn't happen with Isaac, it happened with Ishmael, who was the other son of Abraham. And therefore, ever since 7th century, the top of Temple Mount area is actually Muslim. But the top of Temple Mount area is Muslim, because the bottom of Temple Mount area, which is the Jewish Wailing Wall or Western Wall, that's Jewish site. Now, of course, chronologically we know that if you try again to go to the question who was here first, chronologically there was the first temple, then the second temple, then the Dome of the Rock. But if you ask the Muslims, they'll say that there are no remains to either first or second temple. Therefore, there was nothing here before the Dome of the Rock was built. It's true that there are no remains of the temple because the Dome of the Rock is on top of that. Nobody can excavate underneath the Dome of the Rock because it's a Muslim area. So it's all again getting to be a political question as to who controls what. But for 1900 years, from the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70 until 1967, basically Jews were prevented from entering into Jerusalem or being anywhere near the Western Wall, either by Adrian Caesar or by the Romans or by the Byzantines or by the Muslims or by the Crusaders. I mean, no matter who controlled here, they're always prevented from going there. So the linkage almost disconnected, but it didn't disconnect. And Jews always remembered that there was a first and second temple. They always spoke about the first and second temple and everything. But meanwhile, the layers of Jerusalem changed the landscape of Jerusalem. So in other words, when Jesus would stand here, and this is also an important point, when Jesus would stand here and talk about these mighty walls of Jerusalem being destroyed, and this whole city is going to be destroyed in a few days and nothing is going to survive, think what would be the reaction of the people, because this city was described by the Romans as one of the most beautiful cities in the Roman Empire. Massive walls of 25 meters, with the smallest stone of the walls was 2.5 tons. So think that you look at this wall and this city that's in its peak time, its glorious time, and you say this is going to be destroyed in a few days and nothing will stand still, and you can imagine how would people react to that. So the first sight of Jesus when he would stand here with the disciples would be that massive temple. Now this whole platform of the temple you see today is almost like 4 football stadiums together. It was all built by Herod, so it could accommodate about 150,000 people, because this Jerusalem was a city of 10,000 people in normal times. But in the holidays, the 3 main holidays where all Jews would come to Jerusalem, it would be 150,000 people. And Herod not only wanted to allow lots of Jewish visitors to come to the temple, they wanted to allow tourists coming to the temple. And his biggest problem was the temple, as it was built in Solomon's time, when he took the whole mountain, non-Jews could not go visit because they couldn't go into the temple. And so by expanding the mountain and creating an empty area that has nothing to do with the temple, he opened the temple up for non-Jewish visitors. How do you expand the mountain and turn it into a platform? He built arches on both sides of the valleys. On top of them more arches, and more arches, leveled the whole thing. But then you have this whole big platform hanging on arches. You want to hold it so it won't collapse with the heavy weight. And then you put around it 4 stone walls, massive stone walls, like a stone box around the whole mountain to help it from collapse. That's the retaining walls of the temple, and the Wailing Wall, Western Wall, is one of the retaining walls of the temple. It's not underneath, it's around the whole mountain. The whole mountain was like this, now the whole mountain is like this. The walls go like this and hold the whole mountain so it won't collapse. Top of the mountain is this platform which you still see today. Only when you see today the Dome of the Rock, over there you saw the temple in the middle. The other important thing is, and that has to do with the question of the third temple, we have from Jewish sources, from all sort of Jewish sources, we have everything we need to know about the temple. The size, the dimensions, what kind of tools was there, what kind of clothing the priests wear and everything. So basically, theoretically, we could take an empty area out of Jerusalem, build the whole temple, and it will look exactly like the temple looked. The biggest question is, now that you bring a big crane and lift it and bring it to Temple Mount area, where are you going to set it? Because where you're going to set it makes a big difference. Because if you step a meter to the wrong direction, you miss the whole point of the Holy of Holies being restricted only to the high priest, and the holy being restricted only to the priests, and then the temple being restricted only to Jews, and the outside of the temple allowed to everyone. The exact location of the temple we don't know. There are 2 theories about it. One says where the Dome of the Rock stands today. One says no, straight from the Golden Gate. So if you take a straight line from the Golden Gate, it goes back to the right side of the Dome of the Rock. Those 2 theories, those are 2 of the main theories, but actually we cannot say for 100% where is it. What was the exact location of this place? Let me try and call and see if he's here.
We've